If you want a person dead, you call a hitman. If it's a monster you want gone, call the man in gray. But be ready to pony up the cash, because if you want him to slay, you gotta pay. Slay is a foul-mouthed, monster-killing, drug-addled anti-hero story hacked from the mind of #1 New York Times bestselling author Scott Sigler. Described as The Witcher meets The Boys, Slay follows Lincoln Franks, the deadly man in gray, whose talent for hunting monsters can no longer be contained by the oath of poverty his role requires. Life can be just as messy as murder, and when Lincoln's family is at stake, he will do anything to make sure they are protected. It's time to cut off some heads, collect bounties, and bring home the bacon. And it's the perfect time to get your fill of blood, guts, and human sacrifice. Check out this electrifying series debut, Slay, by Scott Sigler, on Audible and Amazon. Or find links at scottsigler.com/slay. Print release coming soon.
Bingo Blitz rules.
If your bingo has ads in it,
That's not a bingo.
if it doesn't have the coolest tournaments, mini games, and the most breathtaking design,
Nope, not a bingo.
if your bingo moment makes you feel so excited that you just want to burst in joy and scream out loud, bingo! Sorry, so you're playing...
Bingo Blitz? Now that's a bingo. Go for a world of excitement with Bingo Blitz, the #1 free bingo game. Download Bingo Blitz and play for free.
Now that's a bingo.
In 2005, two brothers hit the road to fight monsters. That road has led them to fighting demons, angels, and saving the world.
It's a journey that is taking them to heaven, hell, and back. But they aren't done.
Join our journey as we go episode by episode, following the adventures of Sam and Dean Winchester. We break each episode down with the writers, producers, directors, crew, and actors to bring you the behind-the-scenes stories of how this legendary TV series was made. That guy right there, that's Rob Benedict. He played God and Chuck Shirley.
Hey, and that guy there, that's Richard Spade Jr. He played Gabriel, Loki, and the Trickster. And P.S., he directed a bunch of episodes too.
Now, while we are insiders, we're also outsiders, because we're not experts. This is our first time watching the entire series, all 327 episodes.
Rich and I have met many of the fans at conventions around the world, and we are deepening our understanding of why you all love this series so much. Because it's really good.
Yeah, it is. Now, listen. There will be spoilers, so consider yourself warned.
And thank you for joining us on this trip we call Supernatural Then and Now. Hi, everybody. This is Rob Benedict.
And hey, I'm Richard Spate Jr.
And we are talking about Season 6, Episode 7, Family Matters, which was the name of a sitcom in the 80s and also... a title that could go both ways, like you, Rich.
All right, so here's a question, Robert. Did you ever guest star on Family Matters, the sitcom?
No, never did. That was just a touch before my time. You?
Wait, they weren't making that show when you and I were... Wasn't that show...
I don't know. I thought that was like late 80s or something.
No, I kind of think that was...
Really?
I think.
Oh, you're right. Maybe that was early 90s. Was that with Urkel?
Yeah.
I tested for a different Urkel pilot, like a spin-off Urkel pilot.
Yeah, the grown-ups or whatever.
Yeah. Where I was more of an Urkel type on the...
Now we're having a conversation.
I remember the note I got was like, hey, for the test, have him lose the tie. Because I had like a goofy tie,
90s comedies. There's a word to describe 90s comedies like that, and the word is unfunny.
Unfunny. There's so many unfunny.
They're so unfunny that I shudder to think what my sons would think if we plopped one of those on. They'd be like, oh my God, this is like watching dental surgery.
I know, just the name of them was ridiculous.
And
anyway,
the over-the-topness and the canned laughter, like, oh my God, he just came in the door like that.
I know. And they're all called like, just one of those things, or not today.
Small wonder.
All right, well, hey, thanks for listening to this podcast, everyone. If you're not listening to this
episode... How the hell are you hearing us? If they're not listening, that doesn't make sense.
Then it doesn't make any sense. You've gone into a weird time warp.
Have we sent this to them in the form of a letter, and they're now reading this aloud to their family because they have a family matter, and the issue is they don't listen to the podcast, so they get mail about it?
Well, I guess, nevertheless, if you're not listening in October 2024, you better catch up. Binge the podcast. Listen every day. We don't care if you have a job or family and friends.
You know what the doctor says? Yeah, I mean, school schmool. Literally, the doctors are out there saying, I'm hearing it all the time. Doctors are saying, people are saying, you got to listen to podcasts every day. You got to listen to Supernatural then and now every day. People are saying, that's what they're saying. That's what doctors are saying.
That's right. People are saying it. So we're not doctors, but we know doctors.
Some of the best economists in the world have looked at our podcast and said that you got to listen every day.
True.
For years, doctors were trying to get people to get this podcast up on the air, and so that people could listen to it every day. And I did it. I was the only one who could do it, and I did it. And now it's up. You can listen every day.
That's great. That's great. It's a good story. It's a real, like, these people are not actors underneath your face. All right, let's get into the summary of Family Matters.
Summarize it, Robert.
Dean brings a badly beaten Sam back to their motel to have Castiel examine him. Sam, while tied to the chair, confesses he hasn't been himself and hasn't slept at all since being resurrected. Castiel reaches his hand into Sam's chest and discovered there's no soul in Sam.
I tell you what, the way his arm goes in there, he'd be grabbing the chair. Like, he goes so deep, I feel like we should have seen a hand in the back going, hey.
yeah, he goes, that's a thick Sam. Also, I just kept thinking, like, there had to have been, like, outtakes of that. I can't imagine, like, Misha next to Jared doing something where he has to put his hand through his chest and them not, like,
100%.
making crazy jokes. So his soul, which is not inside him, must be still in the pit with Lucifer.
Right.
So Castiel doesn't know how to get Sam's soul back. The three of them decide to question Samuel, who was resurrected at the same time as Sam. Samuel doesn't know anything. Samuel meets Castiel for the first time, and the angel confirms Samuel's soul's intact.
That was kind of a funny little exchange.
Goes elbow deep on him, yeah.
Between Mitch and Misha, and he's like, you're scrawny. Like,
yeah.
He's
He's
the
like,
size of the Chrysler building.
Your Chrysler building, yeah.
And Jensen's like, quit bragging. Let's go.
Yeah. The other sort of note I have about this, because I did make Rob's dumb notes.
Rob's dumb notes. Here they go again. Rob's dumb notes. I'm going to barf again. Rob's dumb notes.
They're the best. So they're infused into this summary, is that, first of all, we got he's like, make him better, Cass. And Cass, like, makes his face clean again. Did hey, maybe you beat him too hard. Why did you have to hit him 14 times?
Right.
Dean just goes away scot-free for all that. That was extreme. I think Dean's being a bit extreme.
I think Dean's being a bit extreme. I also felt like I was confused by one thing when they're in that teaser while we're talking about it. He's talking, they're like, Sam, what's up with you? And he's like, I don't know, I feel fine. And then Misha goes, he's speaking in tongues. And I didn't get that.
I think that was supposed to be a joke that Castiel doesn't understand human speak. And like to me on the script, it was probably Sam was stuttering.
Oh.
His, guys, I don't, he's kind of doing that kind of thing. He's like, he's speaking in tongues.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think that was the
interesting. That's weird.
Cass doesn't get people. That was what I interpreted as. But yeah, there was no sort of like, sorry, I hit you so bad. And it's like, at this point, I'm kind of believing Sam that he just doesn't have a soul. But besides that, he means well.
Yeah, I have no reason not to believe that so far.
I just felt like in most of this episode, they were like, you kept waiting for like, oh, they're really double crossing him.
Evil Sam. Yeah.
Right. But there's really not much. It's like, oh, he's definitely lying about that. He's like, it's just that I don't have a soul. Yeah, he doesn't have a soul. Oh, right. Okay.
Okay.
Right. So they go to get Samuel. While at the Campbell compound, Sam and Dean insist they join the hunt for the alpha vampire. Samuel is hesitant to have them join, and cousin Christian is suspicious of the brothers' motives. They head to the vampire lair. Samuel assigns Dean to hang back with Gwen, while the rest of the hunters storm the compound. Is it me?
I gotta say, man, every time you go into the Campbell compound or house or wherever,
yeah,
they're just a somber lot.
Not
a lot of laughs.
Not a friendly person in the bunch.
I mean, like, Christian's probably the funnest one, and
the
he's
nicest. Yeah, totally. I did kind of that. It was interesting when Sam was like, or Dean's like, says to Samuel, "You don't like me, do you?" And he's like, "Or you don't trust me?" And he's like, "I don't know you." And then he goes, "All right, well, I trust you. I trust you." And then it cuts to them outside, and he goes like, "I don't trust him." Dean, remember that? So anyway, so they're at the vampire lair, and Samuel assigns Dean to hang back with Gwen, who to me looks like Sigourney Weaver.
Oh, she does, which is a compliment, by the way.
Yeah,
by the way, Gwen is big in this episode. Gwen's got several episodes under her belt now. Why have we never met this actress? I feel
never seen this woman in my life.
Yeah. I feel like she would have done conventions or whatever because she's kind of a real player in the show here in this season.
Yeah, young Sigourney Weaver. Well, let's have our producer get on that, find out. So during the commotion, Dean sneaks off and witnesses Sam, Samuel, and some of the others.
Sam, Samuel, Sammy, see me, and so my.
Leading the alpha vampire into the back of a van. Later, Dean confronts Sam about Samuel's actions and about Sam's choices. Dean convinces his brother to work with him to track where Samuel is taking the monsters to interrogate them. So he steals Samuel's phone and they can track him, and they arrive at Samuel's secret location and witness him torturing and interrogating the alpha vampire.
Rick Worthy and all his glorious regalia.
Rick Worthy's great. Hopefully we can get him on the show at some point. We love Rick.
He's got a good voice.
He's got a great voice for it. He's nailed down and strapped to electrodes, but
speaking of nailed down, how about those classical guitar nails, huh? Who knew that he was playing classical gas on the git string?
Wait, who? What?
He's got long fingernails like a classical.
Oh yeah, guitar nails. Yeah. All right, so Samuel leaves in frustration as his torture techniques are ineffective at getting the information he wants.
Yeah.
After he goes, the alpha vampire asks the boys to step out of their hiding places.
Yeah, come on out.
Yeah, he knows they're there.
Yeah.
Vampire tells the brothers that Samuel is trying to find purgatory. He's fascinated by Sam not having a soul and says that he is building a vampire army to go to war. Samuel, Gwen, and Christian discover the boys speaking with the vampire. They all step outside to discuss the situation, leaving poor Tyler to keep an eye on the vampire all along. The vampire escapes and makes easy waste of Tyler. Now, and a gun to your head, could you have told me that kid's name was Tyler?
Nope. In fact, it took me a second as you were reading it for me to go, who's Tyler? But it's the guy who got left behind. And
now, in this scene, what I thought was funny is they get him outside and they're like, drop your weapons. So the boys drop all their knives and everything and they pile in front of him. And then like seconds later, like the vampire escapes and they're like, all right, pick up your weapons.
Bad call on our part.
Yeah, you're actually going to need those. You're going to need those.
Rearm yourself.
Yeah, so Rick Worthy, the alpha vampire, corners Sam and is about to turn him.
I got to tell you, very suspicious and angry Campbells are very similar to happy-go-lucky, glad to see you Campbells.
Yeah,
they're
very,
just
very similar.
They're just a cloudy lot.
Yeah, drop your weapons, pick up your weapons.
Happy birthday,
fighting with us. I've always loved you. So the vampire is about to turn Sam when Christian and the other Campbells restrain the alpha vampire. However, Christian and the other hunters are possessed. They've got the black eyes.
Yeah, something's going on with Christian. He's got black eyes.
Well, at first, doesn't he snap Christian's neck? I had to rewind and watch it again. Like when they first come in, I thought he like snaps his neck like Christian's dead. And then maybe that was somebody else.
No, I don't
Tyler's.
think. I don't
it
think
was Tyler's buddy. It was Jimbo. All right, so the vampire corners Sam, and he's about to turn him when Christian and the other Campbells restrain the alpha vampire. However, Christian and the other hunters are possessed. They've got the black eyes, black demon eyes. The demons escape with the alpha. Then Crowley shows up and answers a lot of the questions. Crowley is the new king of hell, resurrected both Samuel and Sam. He wanted Samuel to hunt alpha monsters and bring them to him. And he wanted Sam and Dean to help Samuel out of loyalty to family. If the Winchesters want to get Sam's soul back, they'll need to continue helping Samuel hunt for the alpha monsters. Yeah, so there you go. A few questions answered here. And again, I kept thinking, oh my God, Samuel is Lucifer or Sam is Lucifer. But at the end of the day, they're both who they are.
Yeah.
They just made a deal with Crowley to be back.
Wait, they made a deal?
Well, they're you know.
Or did he just do it?
He resurrected them. But you get the feeling Samuel's got another motive, like maybe something with, I don't know, Mary or I don't know, something. It feels like Samuel, there's still something they don't know about what Samuel's motive is here.
Did we feel, I thought it was interesting that suddenly out of the blue, here comes Crowley with this whole like rigmarole.
Well, I keep forgetting about him. No offense to Mark Shepard, but I keep
ouch.
Well, I keep, because he's not in every episode, I keep forgetting that he's at play, of course. Like He's sort of the like.
That soundbite's not going to go over well when we play it.
The alpha. Listen, let's just hold on. Right. The alphas. Don't be Mark. Let me talk for a second. The alphas are the bad guy of the season, right?
Right.
But also there's Crowley sort of as an alternate, also kind of a bad guy messing with the boys.
He's like a frenemy though, right?
He is a little bit, yeah. I did feel better that it was him and not like Lucifer, you know?
Yeah.
No offense to Mark Pellegrino.
Oh, wow. Just slamming the marks. Anybody else named Mark you want to slam? Well, we should get into ratings.
Well, look, I thought Jared's doing a really good job. I believe him that he sort of doesn't have a soul, but he still has a heart. At least that's what I got out of this episode.
For a guy who's not been loving the beginning here, I was nice to have another good old fashioned dark episode. I enjoyed it. For that.
Yeah,
it had a lot of stank on it.
Yeah, it had a lot of supernatural in it. I mean, you've got Dean is angry. They're driving baby.
And also Sam gives up some goods, like I don't sleep, but the whole Castiel interrogation thing was good at the beginning. Yeah. I liked the whole teaser. I thought it was really well done by Guy B and the actors.
Yeah.
I love seeing Mythology. He's just a cool, intense sort of...
Oh, yeah, he's always great.
Wing-dang of a guy.
When I'm waiting to see sort of what happens with Corin Nemec. What happens with his character, because there's definitely more happening with him.
Yeah.
And Rick Worthy, finally to see Rick Worthy.
Yeah. Is this the first time we've seen him?
We saw a glimpse of him in the last episode, the vampire episode, a couple episodes ago. Right. Yeah, he's got those nails, man.
He's got nails, and he knows how to use them. He never fails. Let's see. I enjoyed the episode, to be honest. It's funny. I don't know why this doesn't really affect what we're talking about, but all right, let's talk about beards then.
Okay.
What do we give this episode? Ooh, Boise potatoes. I give this episode... do you know what you're giving this episode?
Nope.
Thing is, I liked the episode. I thought it was really good and dark and consistently. I thought those weird flashes that Dean got were cool. And
okay, I know what I'm going to do. I know what I'm going to
do it because it might help inform my decision.
I think I've done this before, but it's like I liked it a lot. I can't give it a full Kenny Loggins.
No, I get
because, you know what I mean? That's a high bar that I want to save for ones that really blow me away. But I really liked it a lot. I thought Guy Norman B did a great job directing. I thought it was well written.
That's an Andrew Dan Laughlin script.
Dan Laughlin, really Andrew Dabb. And we found out a lot. Well acted, had a lot of great actors in it, but not quite, Loggins level, but I'm going to give it the Kenny Rogers.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, Kenny Rogers is a solid one. Also, this is a compliment to you in terms of your beard ratings. When it comes to beard ratings, you know when to hold them, and you know when to fold them.
When to fold them, yeah.
I've seen you walk away.
Walk away, and I know when to run.
I've seen you run, yeah. It's a little annoying when you count your money sitting at the table. But as I always tell you,
there'll be time enough.
There's time enough for counting when the dealing's done. But, you'll have to count your money at the table.
And you, sir?
Okay, so you've given it the old Kenny Rogers. Man, I'm going to give it, and this is an appropriate rating for this episode because we both really liked it. It's just south of the high water mark of Loggins and Stapleton, but we both really liked it.
Uh-huh.
So it's an opportunity to give it a good rating and also to tip our cap to this gentleman. I'm giving it the Chris Christopherson. I'm going to give it the recently passed Chris Christopherson, legendary songwriter, member of the Outlaws of the Country quartet, later part of a founding member of Outlaw Country, a Rhodes Scholar, a veteran of the military, and just an all-around Oxford student turned Texas renegade songwriter and performer, the great Chris Christopherson.
Yes, R.I.P. And, good timing. Well, speaking of great people, director Guy Norman B returns to the podcast today. Guy directed 11 episodes of Supernatural. Fun fact, Guy got his start as a Steadicam operator and in 2000 made the leap to directing on the John Wells series Third Watch. And here...
I got to say, I think Guy B, one of the reasons why he's so impactful at TV is he was like the Steadicam guy on ER, back when that was a new style of making TV.
That's right. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so he's a bit of a legend.
Amazing. Well, here's our discussion with the legend, Guy Norman B. All right, so Guy, you last directed an episode in season 1. So what was the homecoming like coming back here in season 6?
It was cool because in the intervening years from 2005 to 2011, 12, I'd gone up to do other shows. And so when the various crew members and then Jensen and Jared, of course, knew that I was in town, or I would put the word out, hey, I'm going to be in town for 3 weeks to do an episode of True Caller or whatever, Kyle XY or whatever I end up doing, The Evidence, let's meet for a drink or whatever. And sometimes we would have like a, weekend thing or just after work I'd meet. So I kept in touch with a lot of the people. And so when I did get the call to come back in season 6, I believe it was, right?
Yeah.
I had changed agents, and my agent was pretty close with Bob Singer. And Bob said, "Hey, I just took on Guy, and I noticed that he did an episode 5 seasons ago. Can you give me some feedback? Did you guys not invite him back for any reason?" He goes, "No, it's just he just kind of fell off our radar." And that's what happens in this business, as you guys know, that they'll call, "Is Guy available?" "No, he's not. It overlaps with something he's already doing." "Okay." And then they call again 6 months later, "You're not available." You just kind of fall off their list, and it's nothing personal. And so Bob was like, "Yeah, we'll throw a Guy an episode in, season 6. It's got Sarah's taken over. Eric's kind of moved on a little bit. So it's a kind of a different regime, but, he'll pick right back up where he left off." And so I kind of did. And, that's all it kind of took was my new rep going through my CV and going, give me feedback on these shows. And Supernatural was one that was still in the air, and I was there early. And so that's how I got to come back. But it was funny because I think Jensen said it's going to be when I got there, he said, "It's going to be such a disappointment." And I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, because we've kind of built up this myth of who Guy is. Like he came in, he did Asylum. We love that episode. They even named a convention after it in
Right.
England. And
That's right.
It's like one of our favorites. We always stated as one that really worked early on, and to get back that feeling, that darkness, that horror movie feel. And people know your name on this crew, but they've never met you. So when you walk in, it's just going to be a letdown because our myth of this person is going to be gone. But to that end, what's funny is that the crew was probably 80% the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Their retention rate was staggering.
Yeah. Like, what do they call that? Where they replace people? Retention. Yeah. So it was pretty cool. And when I walked into prep that first day, I walked right in. There was a few more newer posters. I walked in, took a right, took another right. The prepping desk for the director was the same place. Everything was the same, just a few different faces. It just goes to show you, immediately that kind of show, as we all know.
I'm glad you explained that too, because that was going to be one of my first questions. Because Asylum is so good, I was like, why the hell didn't you come back? And I knew it wasn't personal, because when I came into the show later, you were actively part of the directing squad for a long time. That's an interesting lesson for those who aren't in the business and listen to us, how fragile those relationships can be. And not that it got damaged, but just, who's on the other end of the phone call right now? They're hired. And then, guys doing something else.
It's about out of sight, out of mind thing.
Bingo. That's what I was trying to say. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I think I got Asylum based on being recommended to the show by David Nutter, our pal David Nutter. And then I kind of stuck when I did the show and I got there to do Asylum. Kim Manners had been made the producer director, and Kim and I were close from my history of I've been his camera operator on a couple episodes of shows in the past.
Right.
And Kim was real happy to have me back, but again, you just kind of fall off their call sheet, so to speak. And so it was nothing personal. And then when I came back in season 6, I think Kim had passed, unfortunately, and so it was kind of a sort of a new regime. But Phil and Bob remembered me and remembered the episode. So, and of course Jensen and Jared were like all on board, of course, when I came back. So that was nice. And again, I kept in touch with a lot of the cast and crew.
Yeah.
Or those guys in the crew in the intervening years anyway. So it was no big giant shock to the system.
So let's talk about the sort of the content of the episode. One of the things that stood out to me that I really liked, and Rob did too, we talked about it in our review, was the teaser. I don't know if you went back and watched it in
I did.
prep for this whole thing, but like that whole sequence with, from a character standpoint, Sam's been real squirrely since season 6 started. And this is the first time we sort of get him, I don't say acting normal, but like he's kind of being held to account.
Yeah.
But the way you did it with the out of focus and jump cutting and all that kind of stuff, I know that you famously did in Asylum some camera gimmick that was awesome for the head swirling around. Was this in camera? Were you messing with the focus?
Yeah.
In real time, or were you doing it in post?
Yeah, I think Matt Tishner was way out. But it's tough. They may have embellished that in post because the problem is technically, again, this is a very technical thing that most people are going to zone out on, but it's hard to go that far out of focus on a lens. A lens will go from infinity to like really close focus. Of course, the longer the lens, the more telephoto it is, the easier it is. But we kind of needed to be in there like on a...
Yeah, those are word of close wide stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So they may have embellished a little bit, or I think, and if memory serves, there's a trick that I think we did, which is you when you put a lens in, you turn the mount, the bayonet mount that locks it in. And it's locked in. But you can put the lens in and leave the bayonet mount out of lock, and you can actually pull the lens, have another assistant, a second assistant, come in and pull it in and out enough. And if there's no bright light coming in, and I think we were digital, so it wasn't going to flare the film like the old days. But I think we might have pulled it like, a half inch out of flat, and that achieves the wide angle lens getting way out of focus. So I think we did a little bit of that.
That's fascinating.
But I mean, again, they could have done something in post that I didn't even notice. But yeah, that was the idea. I mean, as soon as I read it, I was like, yeah, it should be his point of view kind of coming to. And
right.
And that was, I just rewatching that scene. To me, it's super boring because it's one of Jerry Wallach and John Marcinek's great sets. And I got some wide stuff, but it's basically just heads because it's a lot of exposition to get the audience up to speed.
It is, though. I mean, I don't think it's boring. I know what you mean. From a cinematic standpoint, you wanted to see more of that space. But from a story standpoint, I think you did what had to be done, serving the story.
Yeah. I mean, and that's, classic expositional dialogue and getting the audience up to speed. It's an enhanced recap or saga self from the previous. And I came into that, kind of, they all had to explain to me what Soulless Sam was. Because, obviously I watched the show sporadically through the 5 years that I wasn't there, but I wasn't, super fan knowledgeable at that point.
Right.
Right.
Well, this episode
cool.
kind of feels like the final episode of a 3-parter. It started with Live Free or Try Hard, where they introduced the vampires,
right.
And then You Can't Handle the Truth, and then this one. Was there any discussion on that in pre-production? The two that had come previous, were you able to see any of that before?
Yeah, I think I tried to get up to speed. I'm positive I asked to see every episode that season.
Mm-hmm.
Right next to the director's prepping office is the big conference room. And at the time, they had a stack of VHS tapes.
Right.
So I'm sure I went in there on any free time and watched everything. No, I don't remember necessarily saying this is, the part 3 of a trilogy, but definitely, Guy, you have the responsibility of, you're going to cast the original alpha vampire. No pressure. And so, that was fun. And I've been lucky, Sam Colt in Frontierland. So to cast, somebody with that much gravity and weight.
Yeah.
And also knowing, and I'm sure this came up, talking about it, is that we need to get somebody that's so great and so memorable because they could stick with us for the rest of the season, come back in the future.
Right.
And as you guys will find out, I think that actually does happen.
Oh, cool.
But you haven't got there yet.
No.
No, we haven't.
Spoiler alert.
We'll be right back.
As a podcast network, our first priority has always been audio and the stories we're able to share with you. But at Realm, we also sell some pretty cool merch, and organizing that was made both possible and easy with Shopify. When you think about successful businesses like Aloe or Allbirds or Skims, an often overlooked secret is the business behind the business that makes selling and, for shoppers, buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. That's because nobody does selling better than Shopify. It's the home of the #1 checkout on the planet. And the not-so-secret secret that's definitely worth talking about is that Shop Pay boosts conversions up to 50%. That's more happy customers and way more sales going. If you're hoping to grow your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling, on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more, sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout we use with Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/realm, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/realm to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/realm.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See detail.
Thanks for listening. Now, back to the episode.
So did you know Rick Worthy before this?
I didn't. I just knew that he was a cast member of a show called Eyes that Sarah was a writer on, along with sort of her partner, became her partner later on Magicians, John McNamara, who I knew from Fastlane.
Okay.
So I knew John, and after Fastlane, John created Eyes and put this ensemble together. And of course, Sarah was one of the staff writers. So they knew him. No, it was funny. I was just thinking about this. The first person that popped into my head when I read it was Brad Dourif, who.
Oh, sure. Wow.
Who, who I just from Cuckoo's Nest alone, I think is just a god. And so, but he was the voice of Chucky, and sort of keeping in that idea of like, I know Linda Blair got cast on Supernatural. I know this would be like an ace in the hole if we could get Brad. And Brad's just, he is what, I mean, anybody that knows who he is kind of picturing him as the alpha vampire. But of course, they send me a bunch of tapes of the casting session they did in LA. And as soon as Rick opened his mouth, I was like, that's the guy. Why would we look anywhere else? That Rick Worthy all the way.
That's amazing.
That's awesome.
Well, that's interesting that now knowing that, because in Live Free or Try Hard, when they introduce the vampires, there's like, Dean has these flashes where he sees like visions. So they must have like put in flashes of Rick after you cast him as they were editing that one.
Yeah. They, I think they took stuff out of
your episode. I
think we shot. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I remember when we shot on location at the house where they find him and they put the hood over him and take him out to the van. And of course, Dean sneaks around the back and he sees all that stuff. That one shot where he comes up to the wrought iron gates and he looks up, and we did that.
Right.
I think we did. Yeah, we did a thing because we had Rick there anyway, and in wardrobe. I don't think we had him all completely. I guess we did. I mean, even though we put the sack over his head to take him to the van.
Yeah.
And so I think we did some quick shots to be used sporadically for flashbacky stuff.
Interesting.
So that was definitely.
Let me ask you a question about that. And Rob, we didn't really talk about this in our summary of the episode. Why is Dean seeing that?
Well, because
his flash, like him seeing.
What's he flashing to?
I mean, he saw. Remember, in 2 episodes ago when he was a vampire, they turned him into a vampire, and then there's this thing where Rick kind of puts all the vampires in this trance.
Right.
And then he sees all these flashes. He sees a quick shot of Rick, quick shot of that. Different things from Guy's episode that they put back in that.
I forgot about that, right? So he's remembering that moment.
Yes.
In that moment. Got it.
Yeah, because the previous episode, I remember going to visit the set after a day of prep, and it was Joseph Reitman, I think it is, the
vampire. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, so they had it was the big nest. It was like a former bank. I've shot there in a couple of different episodes on, for different things. It's a great location in downtown Vancouver. And so I knew that at that one that they were introducing a lot of the vampire stuff in that episode for sure. So because I only read that script, obviously. So
yeah,
I get it. That makes sense.
And that house that we shot at, all that exterior stuff, I think they had already used it in the pilot of Vampire Diaries, or maybe they were going to use it.
Huh.
Yeah. Anyway, so if you know anything about Vampire Diaries, I think that's the house. Same location.
Rob knows a ton.
Well, that's good to know for our Vampire Diary fans.
Yeah.
But
and it means you got the right tattoo, right? You got the right house.
It's not coming off. So, what's the story of the boom drop scene where Christian almost discovers the hiding Winchesters?
Well, when they sneak into where they have Rick tied up,
right,
locked in, and then Corin's character comes out,
right.
I think that was, and it's almost one of those scenes where you could cut it out of the movie and you wouldn't miss it, but I think that was just meant to be a near miss, like almost getting caught.
Right.
Yeah, that's one of those shots as a director I've ripped off myself for years, where you see somebody and they come up and they stop and they look, and they would take a step forward. And I even had Corin even kind of did I'm hearing things. And he
shrug,
leaves, and you literally drop, and the one person in the foreground going. I think we tried to put both their heads together, and I was like, okay, this is a little too, Step Brothers prom photo. so we land on Jared and pan over to Jensen. Yeah, I mean, those guys are cool about some stuff, but it's like, I completely agree. So yeah, it was easy enough to just drop down. And,
right.
We boomed down on the camera.
Got it.
Yeah, that's why I've used that shot a dozen times in my career, and I'm sure. And it's also one of those things where you can have the person come up and then they leave and you dolly back a little bit.
Right.
It reveals the doorway.
Yeah.
Somebody's on the other side of the doorway listening.
Yes.
It's a variation on that. But yeah, that's one of my favorite scenes, and like no dialogue.
Yeah.
Near miss.
Yeah.
And again, it's one of those things. I think while we're shooting it, I'm like, this thing runs 30 seconds too long. This is the first thing it's going to go. Because it doesn't really push the narrative along. It does and it doesn't.
It creates a moment and a tone and a vibe, right?
Yeah, it fuels the tension between them and Corin Nemec's character, and and it's good timing too, because the boom drop, and then you see Dean kind of looks to Sam, and then you pan over and see Sam.
Yeah.
Here's a question: as a veteran guy, as you were back in the day, had you worked with Mitch Pileggi before?
I might have, as a cameraman on when X-Files moved to LA. There would be these massive second units, and they would call me to go out and shoot like car chases and shoot like stuff that was classic second unit, and they we'd shoot all the run up to it and then the end of it or whatever, and then we'd plug the real actors in. A van would show up, the real actors would come in, and I think I knew Mitch from there, but we weren't super close. But the mythology of Mitch and just what a great guy, solid dude, the best. I mean, you name every superlative you could think of. So we hit it off immediately because I said, Mitch, we have dozens of people in common, and from Kim Manners, the whole X-Files thing, and just he's just if you guys I'm sure you've hung out with him quite a bit. He's just super cool and hip, and hey man, wherever you want me to do, guy, you're the boss.
Oh, he's great.
He's the greatest. I know. So it was like I was in awe, and he's one of my favorite. And you see his performance. He's so good. I mean, everything he does is just really solid, as good as they get.
It's funny about this episode. It's a really good episode, Guy, and you did a great job with it. And I wonder if when you got the script, what your thoughts were, because it's very exposition heavy.
Yeah.
I mean, which is not always an exciting script to get if you're the guy shooting it.
Yeah.
You made it great. It's really good. And I just was curious, when you got it, where you're like, oh, Boise, man, there's a lot of guys explaining crap, or what was your initial take?
No, I mean...
And by the way, that's not me sliding the script. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying the challenge when you're a director and you have these people doing a lot of talking and less action in these scenes, then the onus is on you, really, to keep the cinema alive.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, expositional dialogue is actors hate to say the words, writers hate to write it, directors hate. As a director, you try and make it cinematic and jazz it up a little bit. I mean, I was lucky in that a lot of that big dialogue heavy stuff with Rick in the chair, and I always had the little thing to cut to the scratching of him. We knew I was setting up that he was going to escape. So that expositional dialogue I wasn't too worried about, because also Rick's delivery of that stuff about I'm the thing around the campfire. And then when he looks at Sam and he goes, you feel cold, like he immediately senses that he's soulless. There's just some great stuff, I mean, all kinds of, just running. I mean, it's funny because I remember when we did that first scene with Rick, because that was I think his first scene was being hooked up. He's got like a blood thing going into his neck, and the nails kept falling off, and it was just, he was shoeless. And so I think when we go, okay, let's rehearse it. We had Rick come in real quick, say hi to everybody. We ran the lines, and I said, obviously Rick is going to be there. So then we talked about the blocking of where the boy, because he busts out. The boys are on the other side of that wall. Again, that sort of boom down shot at the opposite where you dolly back, and the boys, and the alpha vamp says, you can come out now, boys. And it's like shitty scent stuff. So that, we rehearsed that, and it's like, get Rick in hair, makeup, and whatever rest of the wardrobe we got to do, and we'll get. You typically would say the crew has it, so they send the actors away, and we light. Now we know where everybody's going to go, and stand-ins know where to stand to be lit. And so I think we sent Rick away, and then an hour later or whatever, we're lit. We bring Rick in, and it was just chipping away at the stone. It was just I didn't really need to get anything too big and wide. I think there is some establishing stuff. But I also had a real decision to make in when we were building that cage. It's like, Guy, how you want the front wall and the back wall to be wild, right? Which means you can take them off quickly, put the camera where you want it for tighter shots. And I said, yeah, but I think they probably put pins in it, so you pull 4 pins, take it out of the way, in and out quick, 5 minutes. But I think for most of that coverage, even back on the boys, I think we left the cage intact, because there was something about that kind of like the uneasiness, because you want to put the audience in the same space as the boys, and the boys were kind of like like looking on either side of the bars. And there's a famous shot in Rosemary's Baby where that's a great story that William Fricker, the cameraman, talks about, where they set Ruth Gordon sitting on a bed on a phone, and Roman Polanski says, okay, we're going to be here, and put it right there, and it was blocking, like half of her was out of the frame because of the doorway. So Bill Fraker slides the camera over and Polanski walks in. He goes, no, this is wrong. He goes, what do you mean it's wrong? It's perfect. We see her right between the door. It's a frame and a frame. It's awesome. He goes, no, because you want the audience to be uneasy. This is not a feel comfortable movie. And no frame of this movie should feel comfortable. So they put it where he wanted. And Fraker was kind of like, yeah, all right. I wouldn't have done it that way. So Fraker talks about going to the first screening of the movie. And as soon as that shot pops up on the screen, the entire audience goes,
leans over.
Because they want to see. So you talk about influencing the audience with what you did with the camera as a director. So that's always in the back of my head. You want to put them in the same space as your heroes. So if you watch that cage scene, there's a lot of bars where all you had to do is dolly 3 inches. Come on, creaser, go 3 inches to your left. Come on, we have this thing called a slider where you put the camera on a slider. You can correct that stuff so easy. I was like, no, don't correct it. That's the whole point. Anyway, everybody's.
I know the instinct probably is to perfect something, but the imperfection is what makes it interesting.
Yeah. And having made my living for 12 something years as a camera operator, man, I know that more than anything. So I remember, doing that scene, and then when you run the scene before we sent Rick to hair and makeup, you run it, and it's just, I call it campfire style because we're reading a story around a campfire. So when Rick did the first take and that voice and that you sense it when you watch it. I mean, it just gave everybody chills, and I was like, this is gonna work. Like I never imagined this is gonna be better than I thought it was gonna be. So a lot of times you'll read an expositional dialogue scene and go, what am I gonna do? It's just people talking, 2 people at a diner talking, and then you realize that a lot of times the well-written dialogue, I would say it does the heavy lifting, and then well delivered by somebody. And there was just certain pattern that Rick had, and sort of his cadence and the timing of how he spoke, which I did very little directing of him. I just let him do what he did, and I would say just keep that kind of like odd timing and that stop and start. I mean, you see it's kind of subtle, but it's there.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lesser actor would just go, hello boys, come on in. I'm a bad guy and I'm going to cut out of this chain and I got blood in my neck. But Rick broke it up.
Yeah.
And just his looks and his mannerisms and how he would just go, and
Yeah.
little shit like that was like,
Yeah.
this is great. And so I just let him go, and
it was great.
Yeah.
By the way, you mentioned that like when you do a camera blocking and then you say that all right, the crew has a set, they're going to light it up, and the actors go to hair and makeup. Did Rick even meet the hair department, or was it just like, did he just walk by the trailer and wave? I mean, like I'm going to go with he didn't spend a lot of time in that particular chair.
No, but yeah, it was more the all hands on deck with the special effects guys because the nails.
Dude, it looked awesome.
Fingernails.
I mean, Rick is really great in the role, and visually it's great. The way you shot it's great. The performance with everybody in the scenes is great. Just one of the, I was telling Rob, one of the things I liked about this episode is it felt like, and I mean this in a compliment, a throwback to what makes Supernatural work. Like the good old fashioned conflict between a powerful being and the boys.
Yeah. No, I felt blessed and so happy because it's, as you know, Richard, it's luck of the draw. We were talking about that earlier. You draw an episode that's all exposition. You're like, well, I can't complain. This is the one I got. And so now it's up to me. They're hiring me to direct. I got to fucking direct this and I got to make this interesting. So you look at it as a challenge. And so I thought the same thing. I mean, it was just very appropriate that I was able to get in season 6, sort of old school, dark, scary script that I was able to luckily draw that did, you're right, felt like season 1 again, which was cool. We all dug that.
And a couple good driving scenes, driving and talking.
Yeah,
I have a question here. Machetes are always so shiny. Was it blocked to always have them, always having hitting the light? Was that a thing that you turned the machete in a certain way to reflect the light?
Yeah, I think you always strive for that. There's natural lights that are in the set, practicals that are going to light up the set that motivates the lighting that Serge and crew do. Chris Gaffer, great team of guys that Serge had for years on that show. And then there's also and so when you block it out, a lot of times if an actor knows that if you bring it up at this angle, I mean sometimes it's just a matter of tweaking without it getting in the way of performance. So I think a lot of that is just happy accidents when they come out.
A lot of machetes in Supernatural.
Yeah, there's certain things that directors love, like mirrors and stairs.
Mm-hmm.
There's certain things, and one of those is always like when a knife comes up, okay, twist it. Okay, that's it right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sucker for a reflection.
Yeah, of course.
Dude, it's always so great to chat with you, man. And this is a great episode. I'm glad to have you back on the roster as a director, and it gave us an opportunity to have you back in here to talk, man.
Yeah. You're a great interview, I have to say. You're a great interview because you're wealth of knowledge and you remember things. So it's fun to hear the stories.
Well, thank you for doing this. And obviously now you're back on the roster. So you do several more coming up and we'll have you back.
Yeah. I'm around and next stop Frontierland.
Yay. All right. I can't wait. Now,
yeah, can't wait to talk about that, man. I remember that one.
Yeah, I know. I hope it delivers.
Awesome, buddy. Thank you so much for doing this, buddy.
You too, buddy. Really good to see you.
You bet.
All right.
Thanks, man.
See ya.
Bye.
Hey, this is Jeffrey Dean Morgan. We are going to take a quick break.
Most tax pros leave a message.
It's Jane. I'm moving on to a TurboTax expert who beat your price. Adam Devine, tell him how I feel.
Hey, tax pro, she's been thinking twice. Best believe TurboTax will beat your price. This is a tax break.
Switch to a TurboTax Live expert and we'll beat what you paid your pro last tax season. Make the switch at TurboTax.com/beatyourprice. TurboTax full service only. Sign up by 12/20/2024 and file by 4/1/2025. Full details at TurboTax.com/beatyourprice.
This episode is brought to you by United Airlines. When you want to make the most of your vacation, book with United. They're an airline that cares about your travels as much as you do. United is transforming the flying experience with Bluetooth connectivity, screens, power at every seat, and bigger overhead bins to help fit everyone's bag. And with their app, you can skip the bag check line, get live updates, and more. Change the way you fly. Book your next trip today at united.com.
Hey, it's Jeffrey D. Morgan again. Welcome back to the podcast.
It was great to talk to Guy Norman B. That was awesome. He's such a great man.
Well, we've known Guy forever, man. A friend of ours, and just a good dude. But what a great director, and great asset to the Supernatural family.
I never worked with him, but I met him. You introduced me, I think, at a convention. He came to a convention.
Yeah, I was never directed by Guy on Supernatural, but I was directed by Guy on Jericho and got to know him there.
Cool.
And you know what's funny about this, Robert?
Yeah.
Going back to, if you remember, he did a couple of conventions as a guest. Do you remember that?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, Guy.
And I would introduce him. I would go to Billy Moran. I'm like, all right, Billy, we have 3 gentlemen backstage. You pick who you want to come out. Here are your choices. Guy Norman A. Guy Norman B, or Guy Norman C. Who would you like to hear from?
That was good times. I remember that.
And by the way, 2 crickets, like most of our shows.
Totally. Right, exactly. All right, well, let's get on to something very interesting that we like to call mythology.
Mythology.
All right, Richard Spate, tell me about purgatory.
Purgatory, well, the term comes from the Latin word purgatorium, which means to purge. For example, Robert, when you need to purge what you've consumed while on a scooter with Hank, you go to the purgatorium, otherwise known as your bathroom, to purge.
Dante Alighieri describes purgatory in the second part of the Divine Comedy. It was written in the 14th century. And
I bet it's hilarious.
It's just a riot. But, he's mentioned in this episode. He said, you boys need to brush up on your Dante.
Yeah. Maybe they meant Dante Pignetti, the character from Lords of Discipline.
That might be who they meant.
Played by Rick Rossovich.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? They could have been Dante Pignetti.
Mm-hmm.
Dante portrays purgatory as an island mountain. It consists of 7 levels of suffering and spiritual growth. Each level is associated with one of the 7 deadly sins.
Just sounds like a great vacation spot.
It really does. With my luck, I'll end up in the 7 levels of suffering floor.
Exactly.
Meanwhile, you're in a suite upstairs.
And spiritual growth. I'm in the spiritual growth level. In Roman Catholic beliefs, purgatory is a place where souls who die in God's grace can atone for their sins and become fit for heaven. Yeah, I always thought of purgatory as the like sort of in between. You're not quite in heaven, you're not quite in hell.
Right.
You're in purgatory. I mean,
exactly.
That's how I use it as a metaphor in conversation.
Yeah, I think that's kind of how it's commonly, you're in limbo.
You're in limbo.
You know, you're
in limbo.
That's what I think it is. Well, that's some good mythology. Now it's time to amp it up with some fun facts. Fun facts.
All right, the title of this episode is from the 1990s sitcom Family Matters that starred Jaleel White.
What? But wait a minute. So my roommates and I used to like do bad sitcom intros.
Right,
and it was like Jim Hanna walks in the kitchen after the crowd kind of laughs because he comes to the apartment and waddles in, throws stuff down. Whew, what a day at work. And goes to the microwave and opens it up. And in there is a pile of men's underwear.
Yeah.
Just exasperated, Jim calls out, Sam, why is your underwear in the microwave? Sam comes stumbling out, much to the applause of the audience, and he says, with a startled look on his face, my underwear's in the microwave? Then I must be wearing my burrito. Man,
I bet you guys
the credits.
You guys didn't get anything done in that apartment.
That's about the level of 90s sitcom
That's right.
humor.
That's right. Good stuff. All right. This episode was originally titled All in the Family, which is also the name of a sitcom, but from the 70s and quite a good sitcom.
Yeah, kind of a more... I mean, completely different categories here. Family Matters and All in the Family.
True.
All in the Family being a Norman Lear, sort of legendary in the Smithsonian. The Archie Bunker chair is literally in the Smithsonian historical high watermark of American television, unlike Family Matters.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, the French title is Entretien avec un vampire, which translates into Interview with the Vampire. And in Japan, the title, loosely translated, means the happy fun boat that kills you.
You know, that's interesting because in French, they really I don't know, there's something about Family Matters, right? There's a lot of, I think Family Matters is a good title.
Yeah, they completely abandoned that whole idea.
The whole family part of it, right?
They just went with they just ripped off the book, Interview with the Vampire.
Yeah.
And by the way, what the hell are the Japanese doing? There's no boat. You know, there's like, it makes no sense.
No, it never does. It never does. When Sarah Gamble was interviewed about the episode, she said that all the hunters were not Campbells.
Ooh, that's like saying all rectangles are not squares.
Right. So
but all squares are rectangles.
So basically not all those hunters there that were being killed and all that, they're not all Campbells.
Not all hunters are Campbells, but all Campbells are hunters.
Gotcha.
That's what she's saying.
Even the soup?
Especially the soup. And Bill Campbell, the Rocketeer. He doesn't know this. He's a hunter.
Okay.
Samuel likely knows what Velcro is since it's been in use since the 1950s. However, he likely did not get the comment Jaws in a goldfish bowl since the movie came out in 1975. Samuel originally died in 1973.
That's quite a good,
Yeah, but here's what I don't get. Like, just because he died in 73, he's back. It couldn't have like leafed through a newspaper or something. Like he couldn't have learned later.
You come back from the dead, or you can be like, what movies did I miss?
No, but people might have made a Jaws reference, and he's like, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I like this comment. I mean, it's true. He would know Velcro, but yeah, he's not going to know Jaws. You know, I love all the, like, there are a lot of pop culture references in this show, you know? I mean, real quickly, they'll say something that's, you know, when he said, hello, Newman, you know?
Oh, right. Yeah, there are. What else? I mean, actually, now that you say that, what other...
Well, there was, you know, Family Matters is the name of the episode, and, you know, Jaws in a goldfish bowl. And...
Yeah, I guess. You know what's funny is, like, they do those things, these, I guess, Jaws in a goldfish bowl, Jaws being a little more sort of timeless reference, but they do a lot of dated references I've noticed sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what you tell me, you know, reference to sitcom star of this moment, you know?
Yeah. No, I mean, you know, that's why I thought the Hello Newman was interesting.
Yeah, it is. Well, that was a solid episode of television.
Podcasting?
Followed up by a moderately decent podcast. You know what I mean?
Well said. Well said.
Well, thank you everybody for listening. We appreciate it. And if you got this in letter form, which apparently we're sending this out in the snail mail, I hope you enjoyed reading this podcast. Because obviously we have to warn you that you need to listen.
Yeah.
You have to be reading it.
Right. Well, thanks, everybody. We will see you on the next one.
Mm-hmm.
This episode of Supernatural features Jared Padalecki as Sam Winchester, Jensen Ackles as Dean Winchester, and Misha Collins is back as Castiel.
Guest stars include Mitch Pileggi, Mark Shepard, Corin Nimick, Jessica Heafy, Darcy Hines, and Rick Worthy.
Just an all-star lineup. Family Matters was written by Andrew Dabb and Daniel Laughlin and directed by Guy Norman B.
Editing by Anthony Pinker, music by Jay Gruska.
Executive produced by Robert Singer, Sarah Gamble, and Eric Kripke.
This episode originally aired on November 5th, 2010.
This episode of Supernatural Then and Now was hosted and executive produced by Richard Spade Jr. and Rob Benedict.
Produced by Stephen Hine, written by Stephen Hine and Haida Holscher.
And edited and associate produced by Trey Booty. Music provided by Tim Wynn.
The episode was recorded with the help of Sonic Fuel Studios.
This podcast is from Story Mill Media.
Follow the podcast on Instagram and TikTok at SPN Then and Now.
And become a member of the podcast to get early access, chat rooms with other podcast fans, and video interviews at patreon.com/SPN Then and Now. All right, so they arrive at Samuel's secret location and witness him torturing and interrogating the alpha vampire.
Wait a minute. You skipped
I skipped the part.
This is so frustrating, Rob, because now people are going to think you're reading the summary, because how could you accidentally skip a giant chapter in your mind?
In my mind.
Somebody's trying to keep us from reviewing this episode. Guys, we've got to review this episode. Don't let Satan stop us.
All right, Rich, we're going to have to sacrifice your body so we can review the episode.
Wait, we have to... What? Oh, I give it up. Full beard.
A bear named Ben.
Trey, when the lawsuit comes, you can use that clip as part of the deposition. Nobody has more power than Trey Booty.
Yeah, and then there was when Steve almost got arrested for the plagiarism. That was hard to watch.
So for all we know, the gendarme is banging on the tree-lined door right there.
Come out with your hands up.
Yeah, I need you to come out of your room.
I know you're talking about the interview with the vampire.
Vampire.
Story Mill Media.
Listening to a podcast should be time well spent, and I promise it will be if you'll give this podcast a try. It's called Something You Should Know. I'm the host, Mike Carruthers, and in every episode, I talk with leading experts on topics I know you will find fascinating. From why people can't keep secrets, what your favorite music says about you, why your pet acts in strange ways, and so much more. Something You Should Know is designed to give you information you can use in your life and give you great intel that you can share with others. I'm told it's a binge-worthy podcast, and with over 1,000 episodes, there's a lot to binge on. Something You Should Know has been ranked in the top of the Apple Podcast charts consistently for a long time. I know you're going to like this. I just need to get you to try it. Something You Should Know. It's available wherever you listen to podcasts.
Contained herein are the heresies of Radolf Buntwine, erstwhile monk turned traveling medical investigator. Join me as I study the secrets of the divine plagues and uncover the blasphemous truth that ours is not a loving God, and we are not its favored children. The heresies of Radolf Buntwine, wherever podcasts are available.